Who were the only Jedi Gungan to exist, and what happened to them after they mysteriously disappeared? Greetings again, my friends, and welcome back to the archives. The Jedi Order is known for having members of all species make up their ranks. The Jedi usually don't discriminate what species they're willing to recruit from, as they accept Force sensitives from almost all corners of the galaxy, so long as they are young enough to be inducted. However, there are a select few races that we don't often see in the ranks of the Jedi, one of them being the noble Wookiee race, with only a handful of known members in all of the Order's history. However, even rarer than that would be the plucky Gungan race of Naboo. At almost no point in the Jedi Order's history do we see a Gungan in the Jedi Order. However, there are actually two of them active around the period just prior to the Clone Wars. Their names were the Jedi Knight Kin-Ya-Dosin and the Jedi Padawan Kosa-Yin-Hadu. So what became of the only known Jedi Gungans, and why did one of them turn to the dark side and choose to serve the Sith? Well, today, my friends, let's open up a holocron and explore the history of the rare Jedi Gungans. Kin-Ya-Dosin and his Padawan Kosa-Yin-Hadu trained their entire lives in the Jedi Order as any other Jedi would. They lived during the Republic Classic era, but neither of them would ever see the Clone Wars. In fact, they actually wouldn't even be present for the blockade of Naboo or see their people make peace with the surface of Naboo. The two of them would have been dispatched on a mission in the year 33 BBY, exactly 1 year before the events of the Phantom Menace. But this mission was shrouded in deep mystery. No information exists within the Jedi Order's archives on where the two were dispatched or what they were trying to accomplish. In fact, many years later, the Jedi Master Luke Kerr would devote a great deal of time to uncovering the secret of the Gungan Jedi's final mission. However, all of her efforts turned up absolutely nothing. This is alarming because their leaving on this mission was the last time the two Gungan Jedi were ever seen, as they subsequently vanished from Coruscant. The fate of the Jedi Knight Kin-Ya-Dosin is unknown. However, we have sneaking suspicions of what may have happened to him due to the turnout of his young Padawan. Kosa-Yin would eventually fall to the dark side, and 2 years later, he was found on the ancient Sith world of Olympus. We believe that one of two things happened. Either Kosa turned to the dark side and murdered his master, or Kin-Ya's ultimate death was what drove Kosa-Yin into darkness in the first place. Either way, the single remaining Gungan in all of the lore was now a member of the Believers. The Believers were a Sith-worshipping cult that lived inside of an ancient Sith temple on Almas. This world was once home to the Dark Lord known as Riven. This is Riven with an I, not to be confused with Darth Revan. Darth Riven was a Sith scientist and a sorcerer, one who perfected many esoteric techniques never before seen by the galaxy. One of his most powerful achievements was the very fortress itself that the Believers were hiding in. Along with this, Riven had actually done a good thing by populating the once uninhabitable world of Almas, regrowing vegetation called the Kaluthan plant. In doing this, the world became hospitable again, and over the course of thousands of years, settlers now inhabit the world peacefully, cultivating this sacred plant as a new way of life. But along with this, Jedi had also settled on the world and used it as an outpost. This caused the Sith cult to become terrified that the Jedi would soon learn of their whereabouts. Because of this, the leaders of the Sith cult tasked the now dark Jedi Gungan with poisoning the plants. All of this was in service to a complicated plot to force the Jedi off of the world by turning the farmers against them. The cult didn't yet want to reveal their existence, which is why they didn't just attack the Jedi outright. The plan was to sow animosity between the farmers and the Jedi. Along with using his knowledge to poison the vegetation, Hadu would also go undercover and badmouth the Jedi in public locations within earshot of the farmers, attempting to tell them that the Jedi were responsible for the problems that they were facing with the plants. Hadu would also make sure to intercept a shipment of much needed supplies for the Jedi scientists, who were trying to uncover the real reason behind why the plants were dying. It would be on this exact mission that Kosa-Yin-Hadu would make his presence known to the wider galaxy. He had traveled to the world of Kularin with another Dark Jedi at the time and some battle droids in order to intercept the shipment of scientific supplies. But during this mission, a group of skilled individuals who were known as the Heroes of Kularin saw Hadu harassing the captain of the shipment, and the group would now intercept the Dark Jedi Gungan. The Dark Jedi, though, would make a quick escape, still not trying to have his position compromised. It was too late though, and the heroes traveled to Almas to see what this was all about. They then helped the scientist uncover the secrets of the poisoning of all of the plants, and while fending off the Dark Jedi's repeated attempts to indirectly obstruct their path, finally, the group would locate the Sith cult. They would then launch a surprise attack on the cult's camp, surprising the Dark Jedi Gungan. The leader of the cult and several other members would flee on speeders, and would abandon the Dark Jedi Gungan to duel the group himself. He would put up a decent fight, showing off a lot of knowledge in the dark side, using powers and abilities that are rare that we'll be discussing in a moment. But in the end, the heroes bested him and slew the Dark Jedi in battle. This was the end of Hadu, the only Gungan in Jedi history to turn to the dark side, and one of only 2 Gungan Jedi in all of the lore. We would have loved to know more about exactly what had killed his master before this, and what drove Hadu to the dark side. It's also a shame that Hadu was seen to be little more than a lackey to the Sith cult, despite having a very sure knowledge of the dark side and of the Jedi Order that he stemmed from. The first thing to mention about this Gungan Jedi though was his lightsaber, and how he had successfully imbued his crystal with so much power that the crystal itself became a dark side talisman. Anyone who wielded his lightsaber would be flooded with dark side energy, drastically improving their connection to the dark side, and increasing their ability to use the Force in destructive ways. Hadu only used basic applications of the Force outside of himself, but his true talents lied in his ability to harness the Force internally. The Gungan was a master of Force Valor and Force Rage, having multiple facets of these abilities. He was also able to not only increase his speed and quick bursts of movement, but he could increase his physical strength within an instant, bringing down crippling strikes with his saber to off-balance his opponents and break their defenses. He was even shown to shrug off direct hits from blaster bolts, but with this came a flaw. He used Force Rage too frequently, which interrupted his ability to concentrate. When the heroes faced off against Hadu at his full power, the fight was a struggle to take him down, and it required their combined might to bring an end to the unexpectedly powerful Gungan Dark Jedi. Despite being lost by the Order as a Jedi Padawan, his skills in the dark side had had him grow in power astronomically. But this story naturally leads us to the question, why were there no more Gungan Jedi than these 2 that we have found in the lore? And why were there never any Sith Gungan Jedi either? When it comes to the Jedi, there could be a couple reasons, the most plain of which being that it's possible that Gungans have a low rate of Force sensitivity. This is usually the accepted answer for why certain races aren't seen in the Jedi Order. Another reason is likely because of how much the Gungan people value keeping their own. We have to remember that the Gungans are a very secluded race, and only started interacting with the outside galaxy and their own surface neighbors by around the events of the Phantom Menace, and were in hiding prior. We also believe the Jedi did not select Gungans because of how innately familial they were. They care a lot about each other in their home, and despite being reclusive, it's in service to protecting their people and their community. That is why banishing a Gungan is one of the worst forms of punishment possible. This innately bred the ability to form attachments, which is why the Jedi likely didn't bother much with the Gungan race. And it is because of these attachments that we believe that the Gungan Hadu turned to the dark side, likely due to his master's death and the deep attachment that he had formed with him. Hadu proved that the Gungan could have a bad day, and that was enough to turn him to the dark side. But with that, why didn't the Sith ever recruit from these people? Simply put, the Sith looked down on the Gungan race, and already were very elitist in their thinking. They don't just want the most powerful, but they want prestige as well. This is of course incorrect, and the Gungans were powerful warriors, but Sith culture is highly dependent on status as well as notoriety. We also know though that the Gungan people are innately compassionate and loyal. A Gungan's loyalty is hard to buy, but invaluable once you get it. Much like the Wookiees, they have a religiously driven life debt system, and this sort of loyalty is less than worthless to the Sith, and in fact is a hindrance. Gungans will not betray anyone they see as a friend unless they've done something irredeemable, and that is why we believe that the Gungan race were not recruited by the Jedi or the Sith. But anyway, my friends, what are your thoughts on the only Gungan Dark Jedi that we know of in Hadu? What are your thoughts on his power and why he turned to the dark side in the first place, becoming a fairly powerful wielder of the dark side? Leave your thoughts and comments down below. And as always, my friends, thank you so much for visiting the archives today, and may the Force be with you.